for the introduction, Rachana, and Martin, thank you for a great speech. The project you were working on was telling a story about history, and when I read through the manual, the three things that I took away as the things you were supposed to focus on were making sure that the content was the right amount for what people would be able to soak in and be interested in. So, and specifically it says, have one event, which you did, have a plot, which you did, and develop the characters, which I think is the part you really focused on, and you did that really well. You picked a very interesting way to tell the story. Telling a story about a tree from the first-person point of view was, I think, a very ambitious thing, and you did a lot of it really well, and I think it did work in the end. At first, it kind of, I kind of had to take a step back. It took me a little bit of time to get into it, but the emotion was there. I think I emailed you yesterday and asked you what you wanted to focus on for this speech, and you said anger and sadness, and I got a little worried. I didn't know what I was getting into, but it all made sense after you got started and I realized what you were talking about. And I did feel it. I kind of came in and out of it because I think you were talking from the first person about a tree. You really have to sell that. And so my advice there, I guess, is to think of it like a Broadway monologue. You really need to be in that character and just sell it. If you're getting basically killed by somebody, you're not just, they were drilling into me. They were drilling into me and taking my life, right? There's a big difference, and I probably didn't even do a great job there, but in general, you really have to act that out. And I think another thing I took away from it a little bit was the memorization. A couple of times you kind of just, the flow of your sentence got a little bit cut off because it took you a bit longer than would have been ideal to remember what you wanted to say. After you finished that story from the first-person perspective, you had a transition to talking a little bit more about what the people were actually doing by cutting down this tree, why they did it, what they did with it, and I think that transition was a little bit abrupt, but once you got into it, I realized that's when I realized that the beginning really did work pretty well, because when you're talking about them turning it into a bowling alley, that made me feel a little bit angry now, and I'm not I mean, I love nature, but I don't typically get angry about those things. So you did draw something out in me, I think, by personifying the tree. And finally, the conclusion I thought was strong. I liked that you ended with John Muir's quote and calling them vandals. And by the end of it, I really did agree with that. But I do think it would have been nice to finish with the same emotion that you started with. So just in delivering that quote, to really express your own anger a little bit at the fact that somebody would do this to such an amazing tree. But overall, I think it was a great speech, and if you want to focus more on that emotion, delivering with emotion, I think picking a topic that's a little bit more natural might make it easier for you to start doing that, and then going back to something that's ambitious later on would be just a good way to kind of take smaller steps in that direction. But it was, like I said, a great job, so thank you.